What if you could see the future? Today, you will hear an incredible story about a woman who experienced clinical death and came back to tell about 4 events that will happen in 2025. What she saw changed her forever. This isn't just a warning, it's a message for everyone. Stay with us until the end to find out how these events could affect the world and your life. If you enjoy stories that make you think, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Your support can help share this important message with others.
My life had always been calm and simple. Every morning, I'd start my day with a cup of hot tea, watching the world wake up through my window. My days were filled with work, taking care of the house, and spending time with my family. These were the things that gave my life meaning. I rarely thought about big, global things. I focused on small joys, believing that tomorrow would always be like today. But one day, everything changed. That morning, I felt a little tired, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Maybe I just didn't get enough sleep, I thought, and went about my usual day. By evening, I decided to relax in my garden, watering the flowers I loved so much. A warm breeze moved through the leaves, and the sunset painted the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. Everything seemed perfect. Then, suddenly, it all fell apart. A sharp pain shot through my chest like a knife. My heart felt like it was being squeezed tightly, and I struggled to breathe. I froze, hoping it would pass. Maybe it's just stress, I told myself. But the pain grew stronger. It burned through my chest, and I could barely stand. The world around me began to blur, and the ground under my feet felt like it was disappearing. I tried to call for help, but my voice was too weak, like it was fading into the air. My body felt heavy, like invisible hands were pulling me down. The last thing I heard was my daughter's voice, "Mom. Hold on. The ambulance is on the way." Then everything went dark. All I felt was falling into an endless void. Time seemed to slow down, the sounds around me grew distant, and I no longer felt like I was in my body. It was a moment of complete uncertainty and fear. But this was just the beginning of what would change my life forever. I remember the strange feeling of my consciousness leaving my body. It was like I was being pulled out of myself. Suddenly, there was no more pain or heaviness. Everything happened quickly, but it also felt like time had stopped. My body stayed behind on the ground, but I rose above it, floating like I was weightless. It was as if I had become a light cloud, free of everything that had held me down. I looked down and saw my body lying still. My family surrounded me, their faces filled with fear. My daughter held my hand, crying out for me. I saw her lips move as she whispered, "Mom, please don't go." Their voices sounded distant, like they were coming from the other side of a thick wall. At first, I felt sadness, seeing their pain. But soon, a deep sense of calm came over me. It's hard to describe. It wasn't just peace, it was a feeling of total freedom. There was no pain, no weight holding me back. I felt light, like I had finally been set free. Then I saw the light. It started small, like a spark far away, but it grew brighter and closer with every second. The light wasn't blinding. Instead, it felt warm and comforting, like it was wrapping me in love. It wasn't just light, it was alive. I felt it calling me, not forcefully, but invitingly, like a gentle voice asking me to come closer. As I moved toward the light, I saw a figure in it. At first, it was blurry, but soon, it became clear. It was Jesus. I knew it was him, even though I had never seen him before. He radiated such love and kindness that my heart felt full of peace and gratitude. His gaze seemed to look straight into my soul, and I could tell he knew everything about me, my fears, my mistakes, and my joys. But there was no judgment in his eyes, only love and acceptance. Jesus didn't speak out loud, but I could hear his voice in my heart. "Don't be afraid," he said, and those words washed over me like a warm wave. He held out his hand, and I could feel his strength and kindness. "Come with me. I want to show you something important," he said. I didn't hesitate, I knew I had to follow him. This wasn't just a meeting, it was the start of something incredible. The light around him grew brighter, and I felt even more at peace. It was at that moment I realized that everything I thought was important in life didn't compare to the love and truth I was now experiencing. As Jesus held my hand, the space around us changed. Everything I had seen before disappeared, and something completely new appeared in front of me. It didn't look like the real world, but it felt so vivid, like every detail was alive. We were in a massive city filled with tall glass skyscrapers reflecting the bright sunlight. The streets were perfectly clean and smooth. At first glance, everything looked perfect. I saw people moving quickly, busy with their daily lives. They seemed calm and satisfied, but something about them felt strange. They didn't talk to each other or look around. Their eyes were fixed on small devices in their hands or built into their wrists. I noticed that their eyes had an odd, unnatural glow, almost like they were hypnotized. "This is the future," Jesus said gently, and his voice echoed in my heart. "This is the world many will see in 2025. It looks perfect at first, but look closer." I started noticing the cracks beneath the surface. The people moved like machines, with no awareness or emotion. On the tall buildings, giant screens showed ads and messages. "Welcome to the new era of comfort," the screens said. "Let technology take care of everything for you." But as I looked deeper, I saw something dark behind those screens. The devices people used were collecting every detail about their lives, their thoughts, their fears, and even their desires. Artificial intelligence controlled everything, from their shopping to their decisions. People thought it made their lives easier, but in reality, it was taking away their freedom. "They no longer think for themselves," Jesus said. "They allow machines to make decisions for them. This is the beginning of the end of their freedom." In 2025, technology will no longer just help people, it will become chains they willingly wear. My heart felt heavy as I watched this. I saw children who no longer played outside. Instead, they sat in dark rooms, absorbed in virtual worlds. Their faces showed no joy, and their eyes looked lifeless. I saw families sitting at the same table but not talking to each other. Each person was glued to their own device, completely cut off from reality. "But why?" I asked, feeling deep sorrow. "Why would they choose this?" "Because it's easy," Jesus replied. "And because they have forgotten what it means to live with truth in their hearts. They search for answers in machines but only find emptiness." I couldn't take my eyes off this vision. What seemed so perfect now felt terrifying. I felt a deep ache in my heart for those who had given up their freedom for an illusion of comfort. "You must tell them," Jesus said, and his voice filled me with strength. "They need to know that their freedom is more than just convenience. Their souls do not belong to machines." As the first vision faded, Jesus turned to me, his gaze filled with both sadness and purpose. "Now you will see what will shake the earth in 2025, he said, and everything around us changed again. I found myself standing on a hill overlooking a vast city. It was a sunny day, the sky was bright blue, and people below were going about their lives as usual. But then the ground began to tremble. At first, it was just a slight shaking, but soon it turned into a powerful earthquake. Buildings started swaying, then collapsing one by one. Dust and debris filled the air, turning the bright day into a dark chaos. I could hear the screams of people, terrified and helpless. They ran, searching for safety, but many couldn't escape. The ground cracked open beneath their feet, swallowing everything in its path. It was so real that I could barely breathe. My heart ached as I watched their suffering and fear. Then, out of nowhere, a massive wave rose in the distance. It wasn't just a wave, it was a colossal tsunami. It crashed onto the shore with unimaginable force, wiping out everything in its path. Buildings, cars, and entire neighborhoods disappeared under the water in minutes. "This will be a time when nature speaks," Jesus said, standing beside me. "The earth will cry out to wake humanity. These events will remind people of what they have forgotten, their Creator." His words pierced my soul. I saw not only the destruction but also the reasons behind it. People had been too busy with their own concerns, too focused on technology and power to notice the damage they were causing to the planet. They had drained the earth and polluted the oceans, and now the earth was fighting back. I looked at the faces of those experiencing this horror. Some were praying, calling out for help in desperation. Others were angry, blaming God without understanding that this was a wake-up call, a chance to reflect and change. "These disasters are not punishment," Jesus continued. His voice was soft but firm. "They are an opportunity to awaken their hearts, to help them remember who they are and turn back to me." Tears streamed down my face. I felt the pain and fear of the people, but I also realized it was necessary. It was like a loud alarm that couldn't be ignored. Nature was speaking to humanity, and everyone had to make a choice, to keep ignoring the signs or to start changing. "You must share this," Jesus said, and his words became a clear call in my heart. Not everyone will understand, but those who listen can prepare. This is their chance. This vision stayed with me forever. I knew it wasn't just a glimpse of the future, it was a warning I had to share with others. After the scenes of natural disasters faded, I felt my heart still trembling from what I had seen. But Jesus, standing beside me, gently said, "Now, you will see what will happen in the hearts of people and the systems they have built." We appeared in a massive hall filled with the sound of arguing voices. It was a gathering of world leaders. Men and women in formal suits surrounded by advisors were shouting over each other. Their faces were tense and angry, full of frustration. The atmosphere was heavy, as though the air itself carried the weight of their arguments. Instead of finding solutions, they were blaming one another, each trying to protect their own interests. Then, I saw the consequences of this tension spill over into the world. Financial markets began to collapse. Huge screens in stock exchanges displayed sharp declines on their graphs. Panic spread through cities. Banks shut down, and people rushed to withdraw their money, only to find that the systems had failed. Endless lines formed at ATMs, but there was no money to be had. The faces of those in line were filled with despair. "What do we do now?" I heard someone cry out. "The systems they rely on will collapse," Jesus said. "Not because of chance, but because they were built on false values. People have placed their trust in wealth and power, not in me." The scenes continued to unfold. I saw streets filled with protests. Crowds of people held signs demanding justice, but instead of change, chaos erupted. Police and military forces tried to control the crowds, but anger and frustration boiled over into violence. Burning cars, shattered windows, and destroyed buildings. Everything looked like a scene from a movie, but I knew it was real. I focused on the faces in the crowd. Some were filled with rage, others with fear. But what struck me most was the emptiness in their eyes. They didn't know who to trust or where to turn. Everything they had believed was stable and eternal had crumbled. They were searching for answers, but the systems they depended on couldn't provide them. Jesus continued, "When these systems fall, many will realize their hope was misplaced. They sought safety in what their hands had built, but true safety is only found in me." These events will awaken those who are ready to hear the truth. At that moment, I saw a group of people who had chosen not to despair. They knelt in prayer, seeking strength and guidance. Their faces glowed with hope, even amidst the chaos around them. They realized it was time to turn to something greater than the material world. But I also saw others who refused to accept what was happening. They continued to place blame, unable to understand that the systems they had trusted could not save them. They sank deeper into their fear and anger, lost without faith or understanding. "This will be a moment of choice," Jesus said, looking at me with deep compassion. "Each person will have to decide where to place their trust, in the illusions of this world or in the eternal truth." I couldn't look away from this vision. Pain and hope were woven together in every scene. My heart felt heavy for those who would never see the truth, but I also felt joy for those who would find their way. "You must tell them about this," Jesus added softly, "so that those who listen can prepare and make their choice." These words became a reminder to me that the truth isn't always easy to accept, but it must be shared, even when the path is difficult. After the scenes of chaos and destruction, Jesus turned to me, his expression softening with hope. "Now you will see what happens when light returns to the hearts of people," he said. The space around us shifted once more. I found myself standing in a vast field, surrounded by thousands of people. They were on their knees, lifting their hands toward the sky. Their faces were turned toward a golden light breaking through the clouds, bathing everything in a warm glow. It was breathtakingly beautiful. I could see tears streaming down their faces, but they weren't tears of fear or pain. They were tears of repentance and hope. Their voices rose together in a unified prayer. I couldn't make out the exact words, but every sound was filled with a deep longing for forgiveness. These people were no longer looking to material things for comfort. They weren't seeking peace in technology or power. They were searching for something greater. They were searching for God. "In 2025, many hearts will awaken," Jesus said, and his voice filled me with warmth. "After suffering and loss, people will begin to seek the truth. They will realize I was always here, waiting for them to return to me." I saw families that had been divided come back together. They held hands, prayed, and asked each other for forgiveness. I saw parents teaching their children to pray. These children, for the first time, experienced true peace and love, something no device or game could give them. Their eyes shone with a light that was so different from the empty glow of screens I had seen before. But not everyone joined this light. I noticed people standing far away, watching with suspicion and fear. They clung to their old values, their technology, and their illusions of control. They were too afraid to let go, unable to see that these attachments were keeping them in darkness. Jesus said softly, "Not all will come to me, but many will find the way." This light will be their hope, giving them the strength to face what lies ahead. I saw people gathering all over the world. It didn't matter what their nationality or faith had been before, they were united by a shared desire to be closer to God. They prayed, sang, and helped one another. This moment was so powerful that I felt the love and light filling the entire space. The awakening will start in their hearts, Jesus continued. It will not just be a movement, it will be a return to who they were meant to be. People will realize their strength doesn't come from what they can create but from what is already within their souls. My heart filled with joy. This was the hope I couldn't forget. Despite all the disasters and fears I had seen, this light showed me that love and faith were stronger than anything else. You must share this, Jesus said, looking directly into my soul. These events will give people a chance. You must help them see the light that is waiting for each of them. I couldn't hold back my tears. This wasn't just a vision, it was a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light will always find its way. That light wasn't just hope for the people I saw, it was hope for me too. Suddenly, I felt myself being pulled back. The visions disappeared, and I found myself in my body again. My eyes opened, and I saw the face of a doctor. He looked shocked and said, "We thought we'd lost you." But I knew why I had returned. I had a mission, to share with people what I had seen. I knew not everyone would believe me, but my message was clear: we must prepare. The time to act is now. In the first hours after coming back, I felt overwhelmed. I could hear the doctors talking to my family, explaining how my heart had stopped but somehow miraculously restarted. My daughter hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face, and my grandchildren stood nearby, looking scared but relieved that I was back. Yet I knew my return wasn't just a second chance at life, it was a calling. As I regained my strength, I began to tell my family about my experience. At first, they looked at me with disbelief, but as I spoke, they could see the conviction in my eyes and the truth in my voice. My hands trembled as I described the future, the warnings from Jesus, and the dangers of relying too much on technology. These are not just conveniences, I told them. They are chains we are willingly putting on ourselves. But there is hope. We need to remember who we are. We are not machines. We are children of God. I felt a deep sense of responsibility. I didn't know how people would react to my words, but I knew I couldn't stay silent. The message burned in my soul, and I had to share it with everyone willing to listen. Do not trust the false promises of technology, I said firmly. Stay connected to the truth. Remember, true freedom doesn't come from devices but from your connection to the Creator. Truth is the light that cannot be extinguished if you hold it in your heart. Every word I spoke was filled with love and faith for humanity. I knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but the light I saw during my experience stayed with me as a guide. It reminded me that love and truth are more powerful than any darkness.
If this story has inspired you and made you think, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with others. Together, we can face the future with faith, hope, and light in our hearts.